डिसिप्लिन का मतलब ये होता है जो एक बार मैंने निर्णय ले लिया मैं खुद की बेइज्जती नहीं करूंगा.
Discipline your thoughts. Stop thinking too much.
Routine looks like this. I wake up every morning at 5:30. The alarm goes off. I don't.
Why are you out running 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and not later in the day? Or why do fighters do that?
Because I don't want to do it. It's the discipline to do things that you don't want to do.
I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of discipline. And today we have with us the person who has these reels hoarded in their Instagram feed, yet the same habits and the same life. Oh wait, is that you? Okay then, let's begin. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving deep into the world of self-discipline, and we'll also be exploring the science behind building lasting habits. And to be precise, what does it mean to build discipline, or what does it mean to build a lasting habit? So before I delve deeper into the video, many of you must be thinking, why am I not using my ASMR voice? And the reason is, there is no reason, I'm not going to do it. So I used to do it because of a reason, and since, as you can see, I have changed my background, I don't need to do that anymore. And I got very mixed response for it as well. Many of the people, they loved it, many of the people, they were confused, but mostly people loved it. So please kindly just comment below whether you would like me to go back to that original ASMR sort of a voice, or would you like me to present my entire video like this. So whatever suits or whatever suits your boat, I'm gonna do that, okay? So moving on. Today we are exploring the discipline and the habit part. So before any further ado, let's dig in. Before I get very technical with this video, let me ask you one question. What do you understand, or how do you associate an individual with the word habit? So many of you might be like, habit usually is associated with those sort of individual who usually look like as if they have their life sorted, or they do things on a timely basis, or they have schedule for everything, right? Wrong. So the matter of the fact is, most of us are already aware of this, but we oftentimes forget. Because if you just notice that when we were children and we had those weird-ass book in which there were 5 good habits and 5 bad ones, there were weird drawings which I could never decipher. If you could, I don't know, yeah, do whatever. So yeah, so there were those pictures, so we recognized, okay, these are the good habits and those are the bad ones. So you should understand, it is completely true that habits can be both good and bad. Many of us get confused with habit and discipline because these two are often used together, but they are not the same. So habit is a very different thing and discipline is a very different thing. Although discipline can help you incorporate certain types of habit in your life, they need not to be used in a similar way. Actually, they're never to be used in a similar way. So, what are habits? Well, to answer that, when you repeat a certain sort of activity again and again several times, your brain observes this activity and it recognizes this activity. Eventually, a pathway is created inside your brain. So, this pathway is what is expressed as your habit. So what is happening here is that this pattern has been repeated so many times that now your mind and body has become accustomed to it. Now your entire body, your physiology is so familiar with the system that when you don't do it, you feel very uncomfortable. So this now has become a habit, right? So does that mean habit building is this easy? Because what do we gotta do? We just need to repeat one activity again and again and again until one day, voila, we have habit. But just imagine that if that would have been the case, then why do some people find it extremely difficult to get into some habits and to get out of some? But then again, for some people, it is very easy to get into some habits, as if one is getting into your cheater ex-boyfriend's pants. for some people, obviously, it is very easy. And that is because of the reason there is a word that has been overused with the word discipline. I don't know, through so many years, everyone has been using it, and the word is
10th में भले ही कम मार्क्स आ जाए, 12th में भले ही कम मार्क्स आ जाए, लेकिन IAS तो बन के किसी भी प्रकार बना.
yes, motivation. Right. So let's dig into the word motivation. You can think of habits as well-worn paths in your brain. Every time you repeat an activity again and again, this pathway gets stronger. So it is like a groove in the ground. The easier it is to walk with the help of this groove, the more effortless it becomes. While motivation, on the other hand, is this spark of energy. When you start onto some sort of task, right? It could be some excitement or maybe the sense of urgency. Both these things can be accounted for motivation. Imagine you want to start a habit of running. The motivation might get you out the door for the first few times, but it's likely to fade. Habits, on the other hand, make running feel automatic. You don't need to be motivated to lace up your shoes. It just becomes the part of your routine, and it's effortless. So before we progress further in this video, I would like to point this out that I might be using the word motivation and willpower simultaneously, although these things are actually a little bit different from each other, and I'll explain it later in this video. But for now, I might be using the words motivation and willpower simultaneously. So on that note, let's quickly move on to the next section of our video, where we'll be discussing the different types of habit and what all things to be considered while developing one. Okay, so let's get in. So earlier, as we oversimplified these types of habits as the good ones and the bad ones, let's complicate it a little bit, and now let's start using the more profound word for this, which is passive habits and active habits. Passive habits are the habits that you fall into subconsciously, like you don't have to put in some conscious effort. These are mostly the bad ones, like scrolling through Instagram or any social media throughout long, like every day, maybe during the night at the bedtime, and procrastinating your sleep. It could be munching on something or overeating while watching the TV. They are mostly very bad ones, and they drain you out emotionally. And not to forget that they are very addictive. Now let's understand the active habits. Active habits are the ones that you choose consciously to build, like learning something new or exercising every day, right? So those are your active habits. So it is very difficult to do such things in the initial phases, right? But as we keep on doing it several times and a pathway is established, it becomes a habit, and then it is very easy to do for us. And now, I know you must be thinking that, you know what, Shambhavi, all those bullshit that you've been yapping about since so long, where's the fun in it? Seriously, you asked me that? Never mind. So I'm gonna tell you the answer to this, and it's a very, it's a very generic answer. And the answer is, it's all in your mind. It actually is in your mind. So let me explain. So Robert Greene, multiple New York Times bestseller author and an expert on human behavior and psychology. So he said something very simple yet interesting, which is, don't think of discipline as unpleasurable. You have to think of working hard on something as something pleasurable, all right? So the context that I got from all of this is that you need to think of the long-term implications of such activities. You're doing it right now. It may not be very pleasurable right now for you, but it should be pleasurable in the sense that whenever you think of the long-term implications of whatever you're doing, you get to understand, oh, guess what? It is very pleasurable because I'm seeking the dopamine. Isn't that the whole concept of dopamine, right? That you don't get the pleasure of achieving something with the pursuit of it. So there are different techniques to incorporate habits in your life, but one of the most powerful techniques to incorporate active habit in your life is to face challenges, or you can say you have to subject yourself to challenges by setting up deadlines. Okay, so you have to set up deadlines for yourself. For instance, let's say you have to write a book, and you're working on some sort of novel, or maybe some journal, or anything. You're working on something that requires for you to write every day. So what you can do is you can set everyday word limit. Okay, so you have to achieve these everyday word limit no matter what. So when you do this again and again, you get this sense of accomplishment, you get this sense of achievement. You understand that, okay, I set a goal and I stood to that goal. I did what I said. So the science behind this is when you give yourself deadlines and challenges, the reward center of your brain gets activated. As many times as you meet these challenges, dopamine is released inside your brain. And this reinforces this activity of yours. This positive reinforcement makes sure that this becomes your habit now. Still, after all these information, I'm pretty sure you'll still find yourself in the conundrum that how come some people have this ability of never-ending motivation, as if they've got everything sorted. I mean, they start off something with full motivation and they go ahead and complete the task with the same motivation they had in the beginning. While there are other people who start off very motivated, they are highly motivated and they are sorted in their head, they know what they are going to do, but as they progress into the task, their motivation starts depleting and depleting, as if they had this, motivational fuel-filled reservoir, which started getting used as they progressed into this task, and eventually there was a point when the reservoir was empty. So sometimes you might think that some people are just gifted with willpower, or they are just born with it. But is it true? Let's find out. So motivation is a complex interplay of factors, including your values, beliefs, and emotions. So when I was searching about this topic and I was trying to read about this, I of course looked into certain videos, and of course I came across this very interesting video of none other than the internet's favorite, and of course I think there are plenty people out there by now who are just ready to start a religion by his name. And it's none other than Professor Andrew Huberman. So in that video that I was watching of his, he said this very simple yet interesting thing. I'll just read it out for you. One of the hallmark features of major depression is a lack of positive anticipation about the future that leads to a much lower tendency to engage in the specific types of behavior that would allow one to arrive at a particular new, different, and positive future. So I'll simplify this for you, and I'll try to explain why I'm using the word motivation and willpower simultaneously in this video with the help of a diagram. And here's the diagram. Here what we have looks like a scale. It is demarcated with different degrees of motivation. One end we have tenacity, willpower, and on the other end we have apathy and depression. So what you can observe here is as high the motivation goes, it is more plausible for one to have tenacity and willpower. And those with very low motivations, here we can see, has apathy and depression. Okay, so what it implies is people who you see, who look like they have a lot of willpower in them or tenacity in them, are more likely to be very motivated. And those in which you see that there is a lot of apathy or depression, you see they are very less motivated. Usually you will see that it is very difficult for them to do the daily chores. So Don't take it in a misguided way. Don't think of it as the olden people, they used to say that you have to be motivated, depression will go away. No, it's not like that. It's not that simple. But what I want you to understand here is people who are highly motivated, it comes to them because they are more susceptible to willpower and tenacity sort of activities. And people who feel or look like they are less motivated, it's because of their inherent depression or apathy that they have. Okay, so now that you know motivation and willpower, how they're connected, and that is why I have been using these words simultaneously. At one place I'd be using willpower, and at the other I was using motivation. So you got the gist, and you understand that when I say high willpower, what I mean and how it is related to motivation. Now, from the same Andrew Huberman's video that I have been quoting, I found out that how the autonomic nervous system of the brain is connected to that part of the brain that is responsible for willpower and tenacity. So I'll be explaining these big words to you, the autonomic nervous system, and what's its function, and how is it connected to the part of the brain that is responsible for tenacity or willpower. And I'll also explain that what is the significance of all of this. So let's get in. This here is a very generic definition from the NCBI website. So let me just quickly explain to you what is autonomic nervous system. It is the component of peripheral nervous system. So what is peripheral nervous system? It is the network of nerves, like we talked in our previous video. This network of nerves runs throughout the head, neck and body. So the autonomic nervous system is the component of this peripheral nervous system that regulates involuntary physiological processes. So what is involuntary physiological process? So it is those bodily processes that you cannot control, and it happens on its own. So like beating of your heart, you cannot make your heartbeat stop on your command or make it beat faster or slower on your command. So some of the examples are given here, like the heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion and sexual arousal, etc. So the autonomic nervous system is of two types, parasympathetic and sympathetic. Let me quickly explain that to you. You can see it on your screen now. In the sympathetic, we can see it is responsible for generating state of alertness in our body. It is responsible for panic or to be alert or calm. It is also responsible for our tendency to move or for our likelihood of moving under pressure, as well as for our ability to resist movement or thoughts or emotions. On the other hand, in parasympathetic, it is sometimes referred to as the rest and digest neural circuit. Chemicals are involved that are responsible for falling asleep or feeling relaxed. It is responsible for most of the states of mind and body in which we are quiescent, that is in rest, where we don't feel an impulse to move. So both of these are connected to that part of the brain that is responsible for generating willpower and tenacity. Now that part of the brain we'll be discussing later in this video, but I just want to make you familiar with the name of that part, and the name is anterior mid cingulate cortex. One more time, anterior mid cingulate cortex, often abbreviated as AMCC, and we'll be discussing it later, but I just wanted you to know the name. Okay, so let's proceed. Both of the parasympathetic and sympathetic influences the willpower. So let's get back to the screen and let me show that to you again. As you can see, with good sleep, the willpower can be increased, and sometimes our body really needs to move even under pressure of performance or some sort of danger. With the positive outcome, this also increases the willpower. A bad argument with loved ones, physical emotional pain also decreases the ability to showcase the willpower. Okay, so let me point out that this sympathetic and parasympathetic system has a push and pull effect on each other. So whenever one is needed, the other one becomes less powerful, and the other, whichever is needed, becomes more prominent. I know you have been keeping up with me through all these complicated discussions and whatnot, but just keep up with me for a little bit longer, because we are just about to discuss some of the experiments that can settle the argument of whether willpower is an innate thing or is it like a skill set that can be developed. So is it a gift or is it not? So let's discuss the Baumester's experiment first, and it is: a famous study demonstrated that people who exerted self-control in one task, resisting the tempting food, performed worse on subsequent tasks requiring self-control. So in this experiment, there were two groups. One had to resist eating cookie and the other one had to resist eating radish. Presumably, the radish being less tempting and the cookie being more tempting, they were both provided with an unsolvable puzzle. Yes, you heard me right. But still, the point of our attention here is that the group that was resisting cookie, they gave up early in this competition. Although it wasn't a competition, but still. And the other group that was resisting radish, they persisted for a longer period solving that unsolvable puzzle. So the giveaway here was that the willpower that we are talking about is somewhat like a fuel-filled reservoir. So if you notice that the group that was resisting cookie, they showed their willpower in the activity of resisting cookie. But when they proceeded to solve the puzzle, they were met with another challenge where they had to show persistent effort because they had to solve it somehow, and we know that it was unsolvable. So they couldn't persist longer because they already showed willpower earlier. So the willpower it got depleted. And in the next activity, it was very difficult to show the same level of willpower again. So yeah, that was the giveaway. Okay, so I heard about another experiment in the same video I have been discussing earlier. And it was about willpower influenced by the glucose availability in the brain as a fuel for the willpower. So let me just read out the title for you quickly. Beliefs about willpower determine the impact of glucose on self-control. So this is a very interesting experiment, right? So let me just explain it to you. So the experiment demonstrated that the availability of glucose did positively influence the willpower, although the interesting thing to note here is it happened only if the individual believed that the glucose could actually affect their willpower. So what I mean here is, let's say you have enough energy in you and you believe that, okay, since I have enough energy, I can go on and show more and more willpower. So you go on to do some task and you keep going and going and going. So this is because you have this belief system that yes, this might help you with your willpower. But for those individuals who didn't believe in such sort of thing, it didn't work at all. Interesting, right? So, is the willpower limited or not limited? So of course, there are two different school of thoughts, and one of course being those people who believe in the Baumester's experiment, and the other school being those people where they are studying this peculiar part of the brain that I mentioned before, which is anterior mid-cingulate cortex. So let's just get into it. Okay, so anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or AMCC, is responsible for willpower. So this was found by monitoring this part of the brain while one exhibits willpower. So there are different methods to do that. If you want to know about it, you can of course refer to other videos. I'll not be discussing it here, but so basically it was seen that whenever one exhibited willpower, so this area of the brain, it was very active. Okay, so that's how we know. Moving on, this part of the brain, the AMCC, it is actually found in pair and it is present in our frontal lobe. So the AMCC receives a robust input from the areas that influences the willpower, like the autonomic nervous system that we talked about earlier, the dopamine reward system, and the part of the brain that helps in decision making. So yeah, all in all, very much connected to willpower. The evidence to which is that the high activity of AMC has been associated with high achievers and superagers. Superagers, if you don't know, they are those individuals that have these cognitive abilities better than those of the same age. So you can think of it as a 50-year-old individual has the cognitive ability of a 40-year-old individual, and the rest of the 50-year-old individual, of course, has the cognitive ability of a 50-year-old individual. So coming back to the examples I've been giving, we can take a negative example. So low AMCC activity has been associated with individuals suffering with depression and people who are obese. So this still doesn't answer our question of whether the willpower is an innate quality or is it like a skill set. So the most interesting part about this AMCC is that it is highly plastic. So we have learned about plasticity in our previous video. And so basically by highly plastic, what I mean is that with certain sort of practices you can increase the activity of this part of your brain, that is AMCC. So again, this gives us an evidence of willpower being like a skill set that you can develop with certain sort of practices. So again, we are back to square one. So which one is true? So there are plenty of research for this as well, more than 2 dozen. So again, we have another school of thought, which is willpower is like a skill set. But if you notice with the glucose example also, it was more of a belief thing. So again, if you ask me, after doing the thorough research, I have this personal bias of willpower being something like a skill set, because when I was suffering with depression and panic disorder, it was very difficult for me to do the day-to-day activities. It was very difficult for me to feel motivated about anything at all. But with gradual practice, of course, I achieved something. Like right now also, I am having a little bit of stomach ache because of my period, and I was feeling very tired. I worked a lot today. I was not feeling mentally very excited, but I just had this idea in my mind that I cannot sit and feel bored with everything. I had this motivation that, okay, I have this commitment to fulfill. I promised a video in the next week, so I'm gonna have to record it. And despite me wanting to rest and everything, I thought, guess what? I'm not gonna rest. I'm gonna make this video because I had this thing like I have to do this. Okay, so again, motivation and willpower. So that is from my personal experience. I believe in the latter school of thought, which is your mind or your willpower can be molded in a certain way. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our video. With all those discussion about whether the willpower is innate or you can develop it or not, those are all good, because at the end of the day, they are just like a sidekick. Your motivation or willpower, tenacity, all those things can help you start something or give you a nudge on the bad days, but they're not actually the only thing that is necessary to building habit. Building habit comes with discipline. So you have to show yourself up every single day. You have to show yourself that you have to do it every single day. You have to be very consistent with certain activities, whatever you want it to be as your habit. So you have to be very consistent with it. Every day you have to show up for yourself, for your loved ones, for all the bad times that you have seen, because that's it. You have to say it on the face of, adversities, that you're not gonna stop this time, no matter how hard it may try. So on that note, I would also like to announce that in my next video, I might be vlogging a little bit. So you can give your ideas in the comment section that do you want this type of videos only, or because I am actually wanting to start a sort of vlog thing where I'll be showing you what I'm doing with all these gyan. So I just don't want to yap about all of it. I actually want to show you how it's done as well. I'm not very disciplined. I'd not say I'm very disciplined, but yes, I'm very motivated. I'm a very motivated human being. I didn't used to be like that. I have developed this with the course of time, and now what I'm going to do is, in my next video, I'm going to vlog a little bit achieving my short goals and long goals. So if you'll follow me through this journey, you'll get to know how I started and where I ended up. And don't forget, I dare you. No, don't. I dare you. Don't forget. Okay? And don't forget that discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. I know I'm very intelligent and super cool, but no, this line is not from me. This is from Abraham Lincoln. And on that note, I'd like to sign off by saying thanks for watching my video and thanks for joining me today. See you in the next one.